My advice for beginning writers is learn not to take advice. Look to yourself. Make yourself worthy of trust. William H. Gass.
You're listening to Writing Roots, brought to you by Aspen House Publishing.
Welcome to Writing Roots. I'm Lee Hull.
And I'm Lee Esses. Today's episode is one of those things that we see when people are really trying to get good at writing very quickly. And it's admirable to try to accelerate your skill set. We assume that's why you even listen to this podcast, is because you feel like there's still so much more to learn. This is a great mindset to have, but we're going to put a little warning in there.
Well, we advocate taking advice. Obviously, that's why we're here. That's why we do a podcast, is to give advice about writing. We also want you to be wary of the danger of taking everyone's advice. All you have to do is go to Facebook or Instagram or any writer forum conversation and see when somebody asks a question, how many contradicting answers you get in the comment section. If you try to follow all of that, your book is going to be terrible and you're going to get overwhelmed.
The solution to this is that last part of the opener, that is to make yourself worthy of trust. So you learn, you grow so that you can trust yourself. You can write your stories your way. That is the purpose of growing. If it feels like the advice you're being given is against who you are as a writer, then don't do that.
One of the things to remember when it comes to taking advice is if you are going to take advice, it needs to be from somebody who is either in your target audience and they are giving you advice about something that they would want to read, or it is somebody who is also writing in the same genre, in the same sphere, for the same target audience as you, and they have good experience and good readership. Because taking advice for everybody is trying to make your book for everybody, and it just simply isn't.
The first part of this is you should be included in your own target audience. If you are writing mysteries and you hate mysteries, then maybe you should be writing romance or serial killer how-to cookbooks instead. Being in your own target audience is important because you'll understand which advice works and which advice doesn't.
When you are writing a book, when you are looking at what advice to take, you need to remember that you are writing for one person, not everybody. We recommend that one person be yourself.
On a very rare occasion, if you're writing children's novels, then have a particular child in mind, not just kids in general. Would my niece find this funny? Versus would kids find this funny?
Because something that you are trying to write for everybody will impact nobody. Now, when it comes to looking who to take advice from, outside the bounds of yourself, because we always want you to trust yourself with your writing. When you are looking at other advice, you have to think critically about it, because not everyone is as much of an expert as they think they are. There are so many times in the writing forums that I go and I look at the comment sections, and there are people very, very confidently saying things incorrectly.
There is a term going around a lot of social media and psychology. That's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, it comes down to the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and the effect being your perception of expertise. So when you first step into it, you think you've got all the answers, and by the time you are well and deeply ingrained into whatever the skill set is, you realize how much there is more to learn.
Another thing that a lot of people may mistake when it comes to looking for advice is when they go to readers, when they go to the target audience for advice. Because of the common phrase, the customer is always right. So obviously, if I'm going to my audience, what they want is always right. But there's more to that phrase.
The rest of the quote is in terms of taste. So what the quote is trying to say is you can't tell your readers what they want. You can't tell them what they like. They will always be able to tell you, I like this, I don't like that, if they're honest with you, which is the goal. They are allowed to spend their money however they want to spend their money. And if they don't spend it on you, that's their choice. The customer is always right in that regard. The customer is not always right when saying you need to change this, change that.
So while we are talking about taking advice with a grain of salt, where you don't want to take everybody's advice, you also don't want to argue with someone when they give you feedback. Especially if you have beta readers that are offering feedback about how they read and consumed the story and what they felt about certain parts. You don't argue with them. You take it, you say thank you, and then you need to look at it critically. You don't just blank accept all of the suggestions that they made, but you don't need to argue with them about why they're wrong, because they might not be. It may be that they are simply not the audience you thought you needed.
I like to think of this as them pointing out problems. It is your job as the artist to find the solutions to those problems. Unless it's an editor, in which case they're likely to also give you suggestions for solutions. But you can't tell a beta reader, no, you misunderstood that. That's on you, the creator, to make sure that it's easy to understand. If they misunderstand something, that is a sign that something needs to be addressed. Not whatever they say, this is how you fix it, but this needs to be looked at closer.
So you may get somebody saying that this section was confusing, and that is very helpful. You can take a look at it and you can go, okay, what might have caused confusion about this section? If somebody says, you should talk about this here instead, it's your story. You are writing it. There may be a purpose behind why you talked about the other thing instead of what the person suggested.
We will talk next episode about getting the right people to surround you, people you can trust to have these conversations with, but especially your editor and your accountability partner. Those are the people you will be thinking about the solutions that they offer. Especially if you get stuck, you can say, hey, beta reader gave me this feedback. Any ideas how to fix it? And they'll probably give you a wrong answer, but it'll point you toward the one you want to have. There are only a couple people in your entire writing lifetime that you can 100% trust if you get lost. Hold on to those people.
And I think a lot about our conversations with writing. When I get stuck, I'll come to you and be like, I'm not sure what to do here or what to do. You will just spitball ideas and just throw them out there. And the amount of times I have used one of your ideas is very, very small. But every single time, without fail, there is a grain of something in what you have told me that sparks an idea. And then I can take that and go, oh, that's actually a really good idea, but I'm going to change it like this and turn it into this. And then now I can roll with it. So again, even though I trust Lee 100% with editing, with writing advice, I still only take a grain of the advice that she gives me for potential pathways that I can take in my writing.
And this goes back to our advice at the beginning of the episode. Make yourself worthy of trust. People are going to be able to point out problems. You have to be the one to find the solutions to those problems. Arming yourself, learning about writing, learning about how to read as a writer. All of these things are incredibly important to developing your skills and to give yourself the answers to these questions.
Study the craft of writing, study and practice, write as much as you can, and of course read as much as you can, because you will learn by doing all of those things. And when it comes to art, any kind of art, it can't be repeated. The sheer act of creating changes the creator in some way. Even if you try to recreate something that you have done in the past, it will change. There's going to be differences. I'm running into this a lot with rewriting one of my stories and trying to go through it is I'm changing a lot in how I write, and I don't like it. I think I wrote better before. But it's because I'm in a different phase of my life than I was when I started writing the story. I want to create different stories than I did 2 years ago when I started this project.
I do want you to listen to the advice you're given and experiment with it. this is where your writing club, your short stories come in huge handy, is when someone says, no, pantsing is the only way to maintain inspiration. Or you have to do it by keyboard first instead of by hand. You have to do things this way in order to be successful as a writer. Try it. See if you like it. Because, again, you're going to change. The sheer act of creating something changes you as well. So at different points in your writing career, attempt. See how you respond, because you might surprise yourself.
Like me, attempting to not pants, discovering that maybe not pantsing is better for me. It's very unfortunate. But the short stories, the experiment projects, those are the place where you can test out a lot of the advice that you get, a lot of the suggestions that you see. When it comes to your story, your writing, you need to discover what works for you. Your unique journey. Every single writer's journey is going to be unique, which is the biggest reason you want to take advice with a grain of salt. How you write, how you tick, how everything works for you to get a story down and completed on paper is going to be different than any other writer out there. Yes, you can take advice, you can take suggestions from them, but you need to make it your own in the end. And you do that when you
write selfishly.
If you have a question or comment for our hosts or a topic you'd like us to cover, send us an email at writingroots@aspenhousepublishing.com or find us on Facebook by searching for Aspen House Publishing.